Yo, what's up, guys? Here's that weapon tier list I've been meaning to make. Disclaimer, this tier list is for the December playtest, so I'm certain everything on this tier list will be outdated by February 6th, which is the next playtest date. But this is for entertainment purposes only, so it doesn't really matter. Get right into it. Oh, and also, all the one-handed weapons on this list, keep in mind that I am ranking them based on having a heater shield offhand. That'd be kind of unfair. Compare one-handed weapons with no shields with two-handed weapons. All right. Let me explain. The tiers. D tier is basically what I wrote here. You're throwing. You're doing a meme build. You don't care about your stuff. You're probably gonna die. You're gonna have a hard time. Basically, the dog water tier. D stands for dog water. C tier. You're gonna struggle. You are going to struggle using these weapons. You're better off using anything on a higher tier. You're just using a bad weapon. Doesn't mean they're not fun, doesn't mean they're not viable. You're gonna struggle using them compared to using anything else on the higher tier. All right. B, there's just better options. These are usable, but anything you do with weapons in this tier, there's a weapon in A or S that'll just do it easier, better, yeah, etc. You understand. All right, A tier, usable weapons that are actually usable, viable, in high roller. You can actually do things with it. Yeah, these are the weapons you actually see fighters running. The weapons in B, C, and D tier, you'll most likely never see a fighter using really. And finally, S tier, just better. They're just better. They're just the best weapons for fighter, in my opinion, of course. This is in no particular order. I am just grabbing these bitches and putting them where I feel they need to be. Anyway. Alright, coming up first, we got the Windlass. The Windlass Crossbow. You know where this is going, right? If this was not a ranged weapon, this would be at the bottom of D tier because the minus 20% weapon damage you get for using a non-fighter weapon, which the Windlass is a ranger only weapon. The minus 20% damage just makes it obsolete to the crossbow in every single way, except maybe trajectory. Don't quote me on that, but it's just a worse crossbow in every way this patch because of that damage buff or nerf. It does less in the crossbow and it takes way longer to reload. And that's going in B tier simply because it is a ranged weapon that does a lot of damage. And ranged weapons are just so good that they can't be below B tier, in my opinion. Hold on, actually. I have a weapon DPS chart that I wrote up because I'm a loser and I have nothing better to do. Here, let me bring that up. This isn't the speed. This is the move speed penalty. So these are all minus. So like the higher the number, the more it slows you down. So the Maul is negative 55%. It means you're slowed down by 55% while swinging. So all these numbers represent how much it slows you down while you're swinging. The name of the weapon. This is the DPS the weapon does for its whole combo. These are all DPS for. Here it says I took the lowest weapon value for epic rarity, so the lowest damage a purple can do for each weapon. That is the number I used to calculate the DPS. So move on, we got the Flanged Mace. It's a pretty underrated weapon in my opinion. I don't think it's as bad as people are giving it credit for. People say it's trash, it's too slow. Well, I agree, it is on the slow side. Its DPS isn't the worst. It actually comes out with a 44 DPS, which is not horrible. So it's not horrible. The range is a little trash, 42 range compared to something like a Falchion with like 50 and has over 10 more DPS. This thing is okay. It's just obviously not as good as a Falchion or an arming sword. Obviously, it is a fire weapon, so you don't get the damage nerf. But yeah, this thing is good at headshots. Once you get the first swing going, the next swings, the consecutive swings are not as slow. Obviously, not optimal for a fighter. So yeah, the DPS on this thing will actually catch people off guard. It's obviously inferior, so can't go in the S tier, can't go in the A tier. It's obviously going in B tier because there is just better options. I would go as far to say it's on the top of B tier just because it's a one-hander with the DPS, more DPS than a lot of two-handers actually. 44 DPS is not that low for a one-hander. I'm putting it right here. Some of you are thinking that's kind of high to put the Flanged Mace, but shields, man. Shields and being a faster weapon, not a slow weapon, is enough to get you in B tier. That's how bad those two-handed weapon nerfs hit the fighter and barb. So bad that Flanged Mace is at the top of B tier. So yeah, next weapon we got the Bardiche. This weapon kinda sucks. The fact that this isn't a fighter weapon both confuses me and makes me sad because this weapon's pretty cool. It would be good. It would actually be a good weapon. You see here that DPS is 46/42. 46 is for the 2-hit combo, which is a lot faster than the full 3-hit combo, which adds up to 42 DPS. So I gave it the benefit of the doubt for the 2-hit combo. The second hit is a really untelegraphed stab, which is really good because people never see it coming and just walk right into your stab for some big damage. But it being minus 45% swing speed, just you can't move while you swing this. They have to come to you. You're not going to catch anybody. They have to run into you or be trying to square up. This weapon is good against slow people who hide behind their shields, like fighters or clerics or barbs, but this is a barbarian weapon, so you're going to struggle with this. If this was a fighter weapon, I would honestly be putting it up here, but the minus 20% damage plus how slow it is basically a really shit version of the Halberd. So this is going in C tier. You're going to struggle. You're going to struggle using this. All right, next we got the Rapier. This is a joke weapon. You get the minus 20% damage because this is a ranger / rogue weapon. And the DPS is absolutely pitiful. If you look at the chart, it's literally half of the arming sword's DPS with about the same range. And it's only 5% faster. Yeah, this is going in throwing tier, dog water tier. You are throwing using this. Yeah, no further explanation needed. Next, we got the double axe. This thing is slow as fuck. This thing is absolutely terrible on fighter. It's pretty bad on barb too, but you'll get lucky. Basically, you have to be versing bad players for this to ever work. They have to walk into you, walk into your swings, and your swings are very telegraphed. And the second swing is slower than the first swing, which doesn't make any sense. So you're better off just one time swinging this and then resetting the animation and swing again. You're better off doing that and then continuing your combo and hitting twice. That's how bad this thing is. They need to look at this weapon. Look at the DPS on this thing. 40 DPS. And that's calculated with just one hit swings. It would be in the 30s if I calculated it with the 2-hit combo. Yeah, that's how bad it is. Dog shit. And it is going in D tier. I am putting it above the Rapier though, because this at least still has the potential to flank people and two-shot them maybe if you get headshots. Whereas a Rapier, you're just kind of tickling them. So the ability to 1 to 2 shot people puts it above the Rapier. Still trash though, don't get me wrong. Alright, next we got the Battle Axe. This is actually a fighter and a barb weapon, so you do not get the minus 20% damage nerf. But the fact that it's a fighter weapon and it doesn't suffer from the minus 20% damage nerf, the only thing keeping this in C tier, or else it would be in D tier with the double axe. It would be above the double axe at least though, since it is slightly faster. And the swing speed isn't as bad. It's minus 40 compared to the double axe's 45%. The DPS is better actually. It has about the same DPS as a Zweihander. And the moveset is okay, but it's just not as good. The moveset is just too slow. The swings are just too slow for the amount of range and damage it does. But the range is lower than the Zweihander and has slightly less. So it's basically the shit version of a weapon that's already shit. Yeah, so you're going to be seeing all the heavy two-hander weapons all the way down here, you're gonna notice that trend because they just did too much with the two-handed weapon nerfs and made a lot of weapons unusable in my opinion. All right, moving on. We got the spear. I'm sure you all know where this is going. This is going somewhere around the top of S tier. This weapon is actually so good in my opinion. This is the best two-hander for fighter by quite a bit. You go look at 52 DPS with 113 range. That's twice the range of a felling axe, twice the range of a falchion or an arming sword. Yeah, there's not much to say about it other than it is the best fighter weapon, I think. The best two-handed fighter weapon anyway. And with only a minus 35% move speed nerf, it is one of the faster two-handers, so it's a no-brainer that this is going to be up here in this move speed meta where everyone is just running away and you're just not fast enough. This is one of the only two-handers that can actually catch people that are just running from you. So the damage and range and how reliable it is. The moveset is amazing. 2 stabs and a swing. But it's having this much range with stabbing animations, no brainer, it's going in the just better tier. Next we got the crossbow. I really slept on this weapon last playtest. I would see crossbows and just drop them. I thought they were a waste of space because bows are so good, and I was kind of right. Bows didn't get the minus 20% damage nerf like they did in this playtest, so there's just no reason to run a crossbow over a bow. But now players are kind of forced to run a crossbow over a bow. I run both personally. You can run both too. I still think bows are really, really, really good. But the crossbow is pretty much just made for the fighter. Wizards and rangers can use them, but I personally think they're perfect for the fighter. Not having to draw back an arrow, being able to shoot off reaction without drawing back an arrow. It's just slept on. It's really good. You can run in there, headshot somebody, get a kill in one hit, and then pull out your melee and just start pushing. The crossbow just gives the fighter so many options. You can do so much with this. You can turn a fight, win 1vx's. S tier material. I don't know what else to say. Alright, next we got the crystal sword. This is a meme weapon for fighter. This is going in dog water tier. You're throwing if you use this. It is basically a longsword, but worse in every single way. Except for the fact that it could do magic damage. But to make this weapon not shit, you need a bunch of magic damage gear, and you need gear. You need like a full set to complement this weapon to make it worth using, and at that point, you would still be doing better with any other weapon. The only use for this really is versus a team of 2 fighters, or at least, or just a full team of fighters. That's the only time I'd see this weapon doing good because it has magic damage. But yeah, keep this for the meme builds. I actually made a video using this on fighter called Magic Fighter ? And yeah, I just barely scraped by with that weapon. Yeah, it shouldn't surprise anyone that this is going in D tier, seeing as this is actually a wizard only weapon. Next we got the fan favorite, the longsword. I'm probably going to be burned at a stake and flamed in the comments for this, but I don't think this is an S tier weapon. I think this belongs the top of A tier. The only thing keeping this back from S tier is spear existing, basically. Spear has all the exact same stats, except it does almost 10 more damage per second, and it has over 30 more range. But the only thing special about the longsword is this right here. You can hit up to 135 damage per second if you land the parry riposte. But just the fact that the spear exists, I have to put it in the A tier. That is probably the only reason. I can't have weapons that are just... The spear is better in every way. I can't put them in the same tier. That just would not make sense. I used to love this weapon, but the two-handed weapon speed nerfs hit this just as hard as any other two-hander. Minus 40% swing speed. I can't put this in B tier. It is just too slow. You won't catch anyone. This weapon is good for 1vx, but there's better options for that. while the DPS isn't horrible, 47 DPS isn't horrible, and an 80 range is not bad at all. It has pretty good range. But again, you're not going to catch anybody. You're just too slow while swinging this. You'll never hit more than 2 swings unless you're versing Absolute Pepega or a very dumb player. Yeah, the Zweihander is just, it's just not optimal. You're going to struggle using this, just like you will with anything lower than the D or C tier. It's just too slow. The move speed meta is just too strong right now. Yeah, there's just better options. Next, we got the Survival Bow. I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this too, but once again, the fact that it is a ranged weapon, even though it is absolute dog shit, and you suffer from minus 20% damage, you're basically shooting fucking nothing. You're basically throwing rocks at your enemies, doing minus 20% damage with a weapon that already does laughable damage. But I'd rather have one of these than a Zweihander, a Bardiche, a battle axe, or double axe any day. Just having the option to do range damage is more than enough to justify B tier. But I will be putting it at the bottom because Survival Bow is just so ass. It is so bad. But again, it's ranged, so it's going in B tier. Next, we got the Morningstar. They need to do something about the Morningstar. This weapon has never been good. They changed the move set to a vertical swing instead of a Zweihander move set, but it is still just so bad. It's too slow, and it's a cleric only weapon, so it has minus 20% damage, making it only 32 DPS. That is absolutely laughable. Doesn't even have 50 range, just shy of 50 range, so it has less range than all the other superior options, and it's just bad. It's going below the crystal sword, and that's how bad it is. I really wish this was a fighter weapon. It would make sense to make this a fighter weapon. I have no idea why this is a cleric only weapon, but this needs multiple changes to be not in trash tier. And I hope they look at this weapon because it's a pretty cool weapon. Morningstar is one of the coolest weapons in my opinion, and they did it pretty dirty. Alright, next up, we got one of my favorites, the Halberd. Now, last playtest, I would have put this all the way up here, top of S tier, SS tier. But again, the two-handed swing speed nerfs are just way too much. So this is respectfully going in A tier, the bottom of A tier as well. I don't think this deserves middle A tier. It's just too slow. This thing is a great defensive option, and your enemies will think twice before trying to engage you when they get hit by this thing. And it also has the benefit of a very untelegraphed second attack, which is a stab, just like the Bardiche. The first hit of your combo chains into your second one very smoothly and untelegraphed, and most people will just walk right into your stab because they don't see it coming. But yeah, this thing is good for 1vx and clearing out a small room with multiple players because of the huge range and huge wing radius. You're going to hit multiple people if they're in a small room. Other than that, its only redeeming factor is you're able to just W key people with shields or anyone that's just slow. Any slow classes that are forced to trade with you, you'll probably win with the Halberd because that's pretty crazy DPS. 57 DPS if you hit him with the 1-2. 52 DPS if you do the full combo. And the longest range melee in the game with 120, which is 7 more than a spear. This thing's also good for flanking because of the crazy damage you do, and if you get right on top of them, you hit them with the first swing, they're not escaping the second swing if you're right on top of them. So yeah, this thing is capable of just two-shotting people. The only reason the Halberd's not down here with all the other slow-ass two-handers is just the range, the raw DPS. You'll for sure not be able to catch any of the faster classes. When I say fast classes, rogue, wizard, or but you will have your way with other fighters. Also, it's just Bardiche, but way better in every way. So crazy range and over average damage more than justifies its spot in A tier. It would be S tier, but wing speed nerfs way too much. I think a good spot for it is right here in A tier. At the bottom though, because it's slow. Alright, next we got the Horseman's Axe. And honestly, in the last playtest, I thought this weapon was absolute garbage. I thought all one-handers were absolute garbage last playtest, and I was right because two-handers were just way too good. So using a one-handed weapon in a field was just not optimal. I put almost all the one-handers in D tier in my last tier list for last playtest. But this time around, it's a whole new game. One hand and shield is the way to go, I think, and for that reason, Horseman Axe below the Longsword, but above the Halberd. That's because the Horseman Axe has a respectable DPS, the same as a Flanged Mace, more range than a Flanged Mace, and it's 5% faster while swinging. That alone just makes it better than the Flanged Mace in about every way. So putting it with a B tier Flanged Mace wouldn't make sense. Having a shield is such a huge benefit. Alright, next we got the Maul. This thing's dog shit. I shouldn't even need to explain it. You can just look over here, right here. Minus 55% move speed. And the Maul is a cleric slash barb only weapon, so you are suffering from the minus 20% damage. So that just makes this so bad. Not worth using on fighter ever. With a 44 DPS because it's so slow and only 60 range. And you move less than half of your regular move speed while swinging. This thing is going directly to the bottom of D tier. Absolute garbage. I don't know why they even made this weapon. You guys need to show some love to these weapons because they're just actually unusable. It's a shame to see these cool weapons in the game, but nobody used them because they're just so slow. It's just too slow. This weapon would actually be a lot of fun for one-shot builds and all that, but you're not even going to hit anybody one time. They're just going to sit there and stare at you, pull out their bow, and shoot you in the face while you're swinging. Alright, next we got the Felling Axe. This weapon is absolutely busted, super OP, and amazing, but only if you're a barbarian. So this thing is going in B tier. It is going in B tier because it has the minus 20% damage nerf for being a barb only weapon, but it's at least in B tier because it only has minus 30% move speed while swinging, which is the same as a Falchion or a Morningstar or a Mace. Actually really good for a two-handed weapon. And even with the minus 20% damage nerf, the Felling Axe still comes out just shy of 50 DPS, having a 57 range, which is about the same as a Rapier. And it's a quick weapon, only minus 30, so going to the top of B tier. Doesn't quite make it to A tier because there is honestly just better options like the Longsword or the Spear. For fighter anyway, but for barb, this is the #1 weapon. On fighter, not so much. It's still actually a solid choice for fighter, but it just feels like a wasted weapon slot because you're not a barb and you're just picking this up and using it. I don't know, it's something about my perfectionist brain, but it's just so inoptimal because a barb can do it so much better. And a fighter with a Felling Axe versus a barb with the Felling Axe is a joke. You will get eliminated instantly. You will lose every time. Alright, next weapon. The Falchion. At first, I thought Iron Mace fucked up with the coding because the weapon damage on this thing, it was actually higher. It's actually higher than most two-handers. Just the raw weapon damage is higher than most two-handers in this game. So I thought this was just a mistake by the devs, but oh, it's actually that strong. With the highest DPS of any fighter weapon except a Halberd used optimally or a Longsword repulsed. This thing has the highest DPS, 56 DPS on a one-hander with only minus 30% move speed and meh range. It has 50 range, which is basically the same for all one-handers. Longer than the Flanged Mace and Horseman's Axe, while doing more damage. You know where this is going. This is going S tier. The damage is just insane on this thing. People complain about the moveset, not being able to headshot, but jumping with this and using your camera control to like move your camera to the left and right to manipulate your swings. Makes headshot with this a lot easier, jumping over shields mid-swing. You get a lot of headshots that way. But yeah, even not headshotting, 56 DPS is insane for a one-hander. A lot of people say since it only has horizontal swings for the first two, it's only hitting arms and limbs. I don't think that's the case. If you know how to use this weapon properly, it is probably the best one-hander. One of the best dueling weapons, since you have access to a shield as well. I think it could be the best one-hander in the game, but I'm going to put the spear one slot above it. The spear is just too good. Having a falchion and a shield is really good as well. I think falchion has the potential to be better than the spear, but that just depends on the player. And you have a bit more options with the falchion and shield. But as of right now, I think the spear is just a little bit better. Alright, next we got the longbow, the king of ranged weapons. Alright. I think the longbow deserves a spot in S tier, of course. But on fighter, it gets the minus 20% damage nerf. And it's just slightly too slow. I don't know what it is about the longbow, but it's the slight quicker drawback speed of the recurve gets me kills that the longbow would just be half a second, like a quarter second too slow to release the arrow and they get away. I think having chase down potential super important on fighter. So that's why I'm putting longbow at the bottom instead of up here above the crossbow, because the recurve bow exists. And the recurve, I think, it just complements the fighter playstyle just a little bit better because it's faster, and look at the charts. You get 10% more move speed, and it has just slightly more DPS than a longbow. And I don't know what it's about, just the rhythm of the recurve bow just clicks with me. I hit more shots with the recurve, and I don't know, just with how slow fighters are with their armor, I think that extra 10% move speed while using a recurve is just so important. And the fire speed on the recurve being slightly faster and get you more kills than you would have using a longbow, in my opinion, in my experience. That's why I'm putting the recurve above the longbow and actually above the crossbow as well. At the end of the playtest, they nerfed the longbow by a few damage points. That does not mean the longbow isn't insanely good. It is still an S tier. It is still, I would say, this is just a personal preference to put this here instead of here where the recurve is, because honestly, I'd say they're interchangeable and it's all about personal preference. And last but certainly not least, we got the arming sword. It's funny, last playtest, this would have went straight down here. I thought the arming sword was garbage. I almost never used it. But this time around, shields are so important in being the fastest one-hander. Not the fastest, but the fastest viable fighter one-hander, while doing almost as much DPS as a Falchion. Slightly more range and being 5% faster with a moveset that can't help but headshot. This thing has got to be the top of S tier, in my opinion. This thing is perfect to use with a shield. This is the best weapon to use with a shield, in my opinion, because when you block someone, they get hit stunned from the block. All the other one-handers are slightly too slow to play off that hit stun they get when they hit your shield. Whereas the arming sword, you can block and then counter swing, and you'll hit them twice before they're able to swing back once. And I think that is why arming sword is the top of S tier. It's too flexible. With the shield, you can do anything with it. You can be a tank and DPS. You can maneuver better because we're currently in a move speed meta, as I've been explaining. So having only minus 25% swing speed is huge, while still having the DPS of a Falchion, slightly more range, with the moveset that just headshots constantly. The arming sword at the top of S tier, the king of weapons right now. I feel confident putting it there. And remember, these placings for the one-handers are assuming you're using it with a heater shield. So yeah, these are my personal opinions on this tier list. These are all my personal opinions. I'm sure a lot of players would not have the arming sword over the spear. I'm sure a lot of people would also have the falchion first, but these are just my opinions with my experience in the game with over 200 hours of playtime, over 100 hours for sure last playtest, using almost every weapon. I've used all these weapons. I mean, I didn't use a lot of the weapons in D tier. I could not stand to use more than a game or two, so that's how bad they are. That's why they're there. Same with the C tier weapons. I use them maybe a few times and I'm just like, wow, this is unplayable. These belong in the trash tier. That's why they're there. Yeah, most of my playtime was spent using the weapons in S tier and A tier. I was not able to dabble as much with these weapons, but with my experience with all the weapons, using all the weapons, I just know these are just better and these are just better than these. And if I wanted to get out alive and actually escape with gold, these are the weapons I would use. These are the weapons I used. But yeah, if you want to try hard and actually escape and actually get kills, A tier weapons will work, but I just don't see a situation where these weapons up here would be outperformed by these. Yeah, some things to take away from this is speed wins. They're down here because they're slow. But you can see how just some slight nerfs to other weapons can make it go from shit tier to just better tier. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you learned something. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about these placings, what you agree and don't agree with, what you would change, what you would put at the top. Yeah, I'm always down to have a discussion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Alright, until next time, guys. Peace.